If you're listening to this on Nightmare Crypt, I need you to understand something before you go any further. This isn't a ghost story. This isn't urban legend bullshit or internet horror meant to scare you before bed. This is me telling you what actually happened, because pretending it didn't nearly destroyed me, and because Hill House is still standing. I don't know how much time I have before whatever followed me realizes I'm talking, so listen carefully. I'm not telling this story to entertain you. I'm telling it because I made a mistake that can't be undone, and someone else is going to make the same one if I don't say something. Hill House doesn't look haunted. That's the worst part. It doesn't loom or rot or sit abandoned behind police tape. It's clean, maintained, beige siding, white trim, a porch that creaks only a little when you step on it. The kind of house you drive past without noticing twice. I moved in on a Tuesday. By Friday, I wasn't sleeping. By the second week, I stopped trusting my own memory. And by the time I realized something in that house was actively correcting me, adjusting my thoughts, my movements, my sense of time, it was already too late to leave cleanly. I want to be very careful with my words here, because the moment you start saying haunted, people stop listening. They assume exaggeration, hallucinations, stress, mental health. That's exactly what I assumed too. That's how Hill House works. It lets you explain it away while it settles in. I didn't see ghosts. I didn't hear voices calling my name from the dark. I didn't wake up screaming. What happened was quieter. I would swear I'd closed a door, then find it open hours later. No drafts, no pets. I'd put my keys on the counter and find them moved 6 inches to the left, like someone had nudged them with a fingertip. I'd walk down the hallway and feel corrected, like my body adjusted its posture without me telling it to. At first, I laughed it off. Everyone does. I'm writing this now because last night I found something in the house that I know I didn't bring with me. And because Hill House doesn't like when you remember things out of order. If you're hearing this and you're thinking about moving somewhere quiet, somewhere old but affordable, don't. And if someone offers you Hill House specifically, walk away. Don't argue. Don't ask questions. Just leave. I found Hill House the way most bad decisions start. Scrolling late at night, tired, broke, convincing myself I needed a change. I was 34, recently divorced, working remote contract jobs that barely paid rent. I wanted somewhere quiet. Hill House checked every box. Cheap, furnished, month-to-month lease, just outside a small town in upstate New York. The landlord was polite but distant. Middle-aged guy named Ron. He didn't smile much. When I asked why the rent was so low, he shrugged and said house has a reputation, nothing illegal. That should have been my first clue. The place smelled faintly of old wood and lemon cleaner. Not moldy, not rotten, just old. Lived in by time itself. Floors creaked inconsistently like they were thinking before they moved. The walls were painted a dull off-white that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. The layout was strange but not obviously wrong. Hallways bent slightly. Doorways weren't quite symmetrical. I figured it was just old construction. My routine settled fast. Wake up, coffee, laptop at the dining table, lunch at the same diner down the road. Evenings watching TV or reading in the living room. That's when I noticed the sounds. Not bangs or footsteps, nothing dramatic. Just adjustments. A soft thud like someone setting something down carefully. The faint click of wood shifting behind the walls. The sound of a house breathing, if that makes sense. I told myself it was temperature changes. Old houses do that. The first truly strange thing happened on the 4th night. I woke up on the couch. I didn't remember falling asleep there. I distinctly remembered going to bed, brushing my teeth, turning off the lamp, lying down. But I woke up fully clothed on the couch at 3:17 a.m., TV off, lights off, front door locked. I checked my phone, no missed calls, no messages, no gaps in time, just an abrupt discontinuity, like someone had cut and spliced my night. I laughed it off in the morning. Stress does weird things. Hill House stayed quiet after that, cooperative, almost polite. That's how it earns your trust. The changes started small enough that I didn't mention them to anyone. The hallway seemed longer some days, shorter others. I'd swear the bathroom door used to open inward, then catch myself pulling it outward without thinking. Objects didn't go missing, they relocated. The worst part was the consistency. Every night at exactly 2:40 a.m., the house settled. A single low groan from deep inside the walls, like a breath being released. I started waking up just before it happened. Heart already racing, body tense as if I'd been trained for it. Sleep deprivation messes with you. I knew that. I drank more coffee, took melatonin. Nothing helped. Then I noticed the marks. Thin scuffs along the baseboards, parallel, like something heavy had been moved carefully, repeatedly, along the same paths. When I wiped them away, they came back. One night while lying awake, I heard something behind me in the living room. Not footsteps, more like fabric shifting, weight adjusting. I didn't turn around. Something in my gut told me that acknowledging it was a mistake. A week later, I found a chair pulled slightly away from the dining table. I knew I hadn't left it like that. I began documenting everything. Notes, photos, timestamps. And then the notes started changing. Words crossed out, sentences rewritten in my handwriting, but cleaner, straighter, more confident than mine. That was when I stopped inviting people over. Halfway through this story, listen, if you're still here and you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, not for me. Because if anything happens to this channel, I want this account to exist somewhere else too. Hill House stopped pretending after that. Rooms felt crowded even when empty. Corners pulled my attention like magnets. Mirrors reflected me a half second too late. The panic hit when I realized I was adjusting with the house. My posture changed when I walked the hall. My steps avoided certain floorboards without conscious thought. I began placing objects where they belonged, even when I didn't remember moving them before. One night, I stood in the doorway of the guest room, unable to enter. My body refused, muscles locked, breath shallow, pure, animal terror without a visible cause. And in that moment, I understood something devastating. Hill House wasn't haunting me, it was training me. The final night started quietly, too quietly. No settling sound, no creaks, no breathing walls. I walked through the house, heart pounding, calling out, testing my voice. The silence felt deliberate, like a held breath. In the basement, behind a door I'd never noticed before, I found the measurements carved into the wall. Human height, multiple, fresh, and one of them matched mine. The marks weren't old. That was the first thing that broke me. They weren't dusty or chipped or half filled with paint from some previous owner. The grooves were clean, pale wood exposed beneath the grime. Someone had pressed a measuring tape or a straight edge against the wall and carved slowly, carefully, like precision mattered. I ran my fingers along one of them and felt the faint ridges where the blade had dragged. There were dates scratched beside some of the lines. Not full dates, just months and years. 09, 12, 16, 19. The last one had no year. Just a vertical line and a short horizontal tick near the top. My height. Exactly. I don't remember stepping back, but suddenly I was against the opposite wall. Breath ragged, ears ringing. The basement felt smaller than it had a minute earlier. The ceiling pressed down, not physically, but in a way that made my shoulders hunch without asking permission. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Renovation marks, some sick joke, squatters. But explanations require context, and Hill House never gave context. It only gave results. I went upstairs and locked myself in the bathroom, sitting on the edge of the tub with my phone clenched in my hands. I scrolled through my photos, through the documentation I'd been keeping, trying to ground myself in proof. That's when I noticed the gaps. Entire days with no photos, no notes, no timestamps. Days where I knew I'd been awake, working, eating, moving, but had left no record. I checked my work emails. Replies sent that I didn't remember typing. Calm, professional, normal, too normal. At 2:40 a.m. the house breathed again, but this time it didn't sound relieved. It sounded satisfied. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table until dawn, lights on, every door in sight. When the sun came up, Hill House looked ordinary again, harmless, the kind of place realtors describe as cozy. I packed a bag. Not everything, just essentials. Clothes, laptop, charger, documents. I told myself I'd leave, get a hotel, call Ron, demand answers. I even opened the front door and stopped. The porch was different. Same boards, same railing, but the steps felt rehearsed, like my body already knew how to walk them. My foot hovered over the first step and refused to land. I tried to force it. My legs shook, muscles burned. Panic flooded my chest so fast, I thought I might pass out. I grabbed the door frame, gasping, heart hammering like it was trying to escape without me. The house didn't pull me back. It didn't need to. It just waited. I closed the door and slid down against it, sobbing in a way that felt humiliating and useless. That was the moment, the exact moment I realized I wasn't deciding things anymore. Hill House was. The days blurred after that, not in a dramatic way, in a terrifyingly functional one. I still worked, still ate, still showered, but everything felt guided, efficient, like a routine optimized by something that had studied me closely. I found myself standing in rooms without remembering why I'd gone there. I'd open cabinets and stop, hands hovering, unsure what I'd intended to grab. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection doing things a fraction of a second before I did, smiling. Not wide, not happy, correct. The basement door was always closed when I checked it, always locked. I stopped trying after I found my own handwriting on a sticky note one morning, placed neatly beside my coffee mug. Don't go down there again, it upsets the house. I threw it away. It came back the next day, same spot, cleaner edges. I started losing time in chunks instead of minutes, hours gone, whole afternoons erased. I'd wake up mid-action, standing in the hallway, adjusting a picture frame, pushing a chair precisely 3 inches inward. Each time, I felt a wave of calm afterward, like I'd done something right. That scared me more than anything else. The pure panic hit on a Thursday night. I was in bed, actually in bed this time, when I heard movement above me, the attic. I hadn't been up there, I was sure of it. The ladder stayed folded into the ceiling, untouched. The sound wasn't footsteps. It was slow dragging, careful, like something heavy being repositioned inch by inch. I sat up, heart racing, listening as it crossed directly over my bedroom. Then it stopped. A moment of absolute silence followed, thick, intentional. And then I felt pressure, not on my body, on my thoughts. A certainty slid into place that I was expected to stay still. That movement would be incorrect. I tried to swing my legs off the bed. They didn't respond. I wasn't paralyzed. I could feel them, but the signal didn't translate. Like the command had been intercepted and denied. That was the moment of paralyzing dread, the moment my brain accepted, fully and finally, that I was not alone in myself. When the pressure lifted, I collapsed forward, gasping, sweat soaking the sheets. The attic went quiet. I didn't go back to sleep. I confronted Ron the next day, or tried to. His number rang until voicemail. Emails bounced back. The listing for Hill House was gone, not marked rented, gone. I drove into town for the first time in days, hands trembling on the wheel. The farther I got from the house, the worse I felt, nauseous, dizzy. My vision blurred at the edges. I made it 3 miles before I had to pull over and vomit. The relief only came when I turned back. I didn't tell anyone, not friends, not family. Even thinking about explaining it made my chest tighten, like the house didn't approve of witnesses. I started noticing how Hill House rewarded compliance. Sleep came easier when I followed its rhythms. Anxiety faded when I stopped questioning where things belonged. I caught myself thinking of the house as we. That was when I began to fight back. Small things at first, deliberate mistakes, leaving a door open that felt wrong, moving a chair slightly off-center, writing notes and hiding them where I hoped the house wouldn't look. The retaliation was immediate. The temperature dropped. Sounds returned, sharper this time. A low hum that vibrated through the floor, rattling my teeth. That night, I woke up standing in the hallway, arm raised, holding a hammer I didn't remember picking up. The wall in front of me was dented. I dropped the hammer and screamed. The house didn't react. It didn't need to. The realization came slowly, like a bruise surfacing. Hill House wasn't correcting my behavior. It was preparing me. The marks in the basement weren't measurements for victims. They were benchmarks. Each person had stayed long enough to be finished, adjusted, integrated. I found the attic ladder down one morning. That's when I knew it was time for the climax. The thing Hill House had been building toward since the day I moved in. I climbed. The attic was empty except for a single chair positioned under the rafters. Beneath it, carved into the floorboards, was a shape worn smooth by use. A standing place. I understood then what the house needed from me. Not my death, my permanence. I ran. I don't remember making it outside. I don't remember the road. I only remember waking up in my car, parked neatly in the driveway, engine off, keys in the cup holder. Hill House loomed behind me, unchanged, patient. I'm not safe now. I did leave eventually, but not cleanly. Not all of me came with me. I can feel the corrections still happening. My posture shifts. My thoughts align. Sometimes I wake up standing, facing walls that aren't there. I'm telling this now because the house hasn't followed me physically. It hasn't had to. If you've ever felt your home adjusting around you, guiding you, teaching you how to belong, leave before it decides you already do. I shouldn't be writing this here. That's the first thing you need to understand. Every instinct I have is screaming that this is wrong, that putting these words down is a mistake I won't get to undo. My hands keep pausing over the keys like they're waiting for permission from something else. Every few sentences, I feel that familiar pressure behind my eyes, the gentle suggestion to stop. But I don't have much time before the corrections finish. I don't live at Hill House anymore. Not officially. I moved 3 states away. New apartment. New job. I even threw out most of my old furniture because I couldn't shake the feeling it remembered where it used to sit. People tell me I seem calmer now, more put together. They say it like it's a compliment. I stopped telling anyone about Hill House after the 3rd time I caught myself using its language. Not saying the house, but home. Not saying I don't know, but it's better this way. That's how it gets you, by making the wrong thoughts feel inefficient. The first sign that it hadn't let me go came 2 weeks after I moved. I woke up at 3:12 a.m., standing in my kitchen. Not walking, not mid-step, standing perfectly still. The overhead light was on. A chair was pulled out from the table and turned slightly to the left. Not randomly, intentionally, aligned with the doorway. Proud, even. That's when I realized the house wasn't a place. It was a process. The moments of panic still come, but they're rarer now. Shorter. Like my system is learning to suppress them. One night I tried to fight it again. I moved everything in my apartment an inch out of place. Crooked frames, uneven chairs. Chaos as much as I could manage. I sat on the floor and waited. The sound came from inside the walls. Not scratching, not knocking. Measuring. That slow, deliberate drag. The sound of something checking distances. I covered my ears and begged, out loud, for it to stop. I don't remember what I said exactly, but I remember the shame afterward. How unnecessary. By morning, everything was back where it belonged, including me, asleep in bed, hands folded on my chest like I'd practiced. Here's the part I've avoided writing, the part that makes my throat close up every time I think about it. I went back, not to Hill House itself, I know better than that. I went back to the town. I needed proof, something solid, something to tell me I hadn't imagined it all, that this wasn't just some elaborate breakdown my brain invented to cope with loneliness. Hill House was still there, same paint, same porch, same windows that never reflected light quite right. But it wasn't abandoned. A family lived there now. I watched from across the street like a coward as a man carried groceries inside. A woman laughed on the porch, her voice light and easy. A kid ran up the steps 2 at a time. Everything looked fine. That should have reassured me. Instead, My stomach dropped, because the porch chairs were perfectly aligned. I didn't knock. I couldn't. I sat in my car until my hands went numb, watching the house breathe in the subtle way only someone who's lived with it can recognize. And then I saw the woman pause in the doorway. She tilted her head, just slightly, like she was listening to instructions. That's when I understood the truth I'd been circling since the attic. Hill House doesn't trap you. It trains you. It teaches you how to be still, how to fit, how to stop asking questions that slow things down. And when you're finished, when you're correct, it moves on, leaves you behind to make space for the next one. I don't know how much of me is left. Some days I feel like I'm watching my life through glass, nodding and responding on cue. Other days, I catch myself rearranging things in other people's homes when they're not looking, straightening, aligning, helping. I've found new marks on my own walls, not carved, pressed, indented just enough to notice when the light hits them right. Measurements, benchmarks, not because I'm afraid of what happens when I close my eyes, but because I'm afraid of how rested I feel when I wake up standing. I'm telling you this because I think the house is done with me. I think it's moved on again. If you've just moved somewhere and everything feels too easy, if you find yourself agreeing with a space instead of questioning it, if your home feels proud of you when you behave, pay attention. Leave early, before the house decides you're finished. Because once it does, you won't need walls anymore. And you'll never know when you stopped being the one who chose.